Hey everybody, welcome to Life Cycles Live. This is Lucas Marino. I've got my dear friend, Mr. Bob Latino with me. Bob, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm ready for another Latino Marino tag team.
That's right. Yes. This is this has been something I've been waiting for those that have, tuned in regularly. I'm always talking about, I got to get back on here with Bob. Bob and I can talk forever about anything, and I promise we won't do that to you guys today, but I absolutely love having Bob either with me in person, hanging out over at Two Drummers, drinking beer and eating food, or let's see, in Winnipeg, or I don't know, where did we go? SMRP one year, and we'll be in St. Louis this year together, actually.
Same activity, different place.
Yeah. So Bob, thanks for coming on, man. I'm super excited to have you here. And, for those that aren't familiar, I do this series, Life Cycles Live, and once a week I try to showcase a consultant or an industry leader and talk a little bit about what's going on in their lives, what's going on in their work, and just kind of shoot the breeze and catch up on life. So Bob, welcome, man. I know you were doing other videos today, so thanks for visiting with us in the afternoon. How did it go this afternoon with Upkeep?
It was interesting because that's a topic that's not highly featured yet, and it's not just on Upkeep, but talking about human performance and human factors and organizational performance. I just see those as an integral part of reliability and root cause analysis and safety, for that matter. And I'm just trying to break the ice on the maintenance community and give people some insight into saying, it's not good enough to replace parts. It's not good enough to blame people. I think that we need to go ahead and delve deeper into understanding human reasoning. Why people do what they do, and it's the fun part about that is it's universal. It's not something simply from work, and it's just a matter of highlighting when somebody looks like it was a stupid decision. You're already biased into it because you've put yourself in hindsight and looking at it like you were there. But typically when you delve in and you peel that onion and you look at their reasoning for it, they've probably been doing the same thing for a long time and it's been working and they've been getting praise for it. But they and anybody else in the same position is probably doing the same thing. So you got to look at the logic behind why are they doing that? Because if it was something that they had a negative consequence to doing, they wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
That's true. That's true at home.
Yeah.
At least at my home. She doesn't question my. Well, that's a different issue. But I hope she's not listening.
She doesn't want to listen to us. So, those two were talking. Nah.
I'm never right. So
yeah, it's okay.
But I like the holistic, broad applicability of it because I'm not as much the in the weeds mechanical type as much as I am the principles guy, and I do work in a lot of different spaces that would range from hospitals to manufacturing plants to schools and things. So these are principles consistent with critical thinking that apply anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope I'm getting that across.
Yeah, no, I think you are, and I mean, I think anyone who stays in contact with the content that you produce, whether it be on LinkedIn or in other places, definitely sees that that linkage between what you're doing in root cause analysis and human performance technology sectors and the other industries. I found it very fascinating that you were involved in HPT, human performance technology, because as I was sharing before, it's big in the Coast Guard. And when I was in the Coast Guard, that was a big focus for the training community was HPT. Where do you see the biggest kind of similarities between what people in our maintenance and reliability communities may see and what they're experiencing in HPT? Is it really in the thinking behind root cause analysis and approaches like that?
I think there should be an interdependency, because this really is the difference. People get tired of me saying this, between the physical sciences and the social sciences, is that as engineers in reliability, that you tend to be fascinated with the mechanics of how things operate. And, you find fatigue, or you find misalignment, or, these types of things. And then you bring in experts like Shane Turcott to look at failed parts, and there's a whole science behind metallurgy. But the key to, or what we can learn from that, is to acknowledge that you can go much deeper than the physics of failure. You can go much deeper than blaming the person for making a seemingly stupid decision, or a violation even, because even when you look at violations, they've probably been doing that same thing, violating by taking shortcuts, and it was working, so they were getting praise. And then all of a sudden they went to a 0 in a matter of 30 seconds with the same decision, because something was different that day, and then they're disciplined. So what HOP, human and organizational performance, will be what they're calling these learning teams now. What they bring to the table is they bring the science, the social sciences to the table, which handle interviewing people much more delicately than being like in an interrogation room, on CSI with the light in your face type of thing. And it's really amazing to watch how they do it, because they don't take it. They don't start with the failure coming backwards like we. They'll once the decision that was made, they'll have in, and then they'll start with, irrespective of talking about the failure. So, how did your day start? And say, when you came to work, was there anything different that day? And they'll walk you through the day, and you're kind of working from the bottom up to when the decision was made, to try to get a better understanding of the environment in which they were working in that day. So I think for me, from an RCA standpoint, you're with my root levels of physical, human, and latent, is that engineers are great at the physical. They're not as great with the human. But when you go deeper into that, your engineers are not very good at social sciences. And conversely, but the engineer is, we're very mechanistic. We're going to, who did this? There were rules. Why didn't you follow the rules? But conversely, the social scientists have no idea what the physics are. So they're not interested in the broken part. And I think that a lot of that's because of the silos between reliability and safety. Is that, when safety's worried about the person that got hurt. They're not worried about the process that failed that hurt the person. So, that's the marriage that I feel has to happen, but it isn't always there, because I think people practice RCA very differently. And whatever, whether it's on a barroom napkin, whether it's brainstorming, at a bar, or whatever the case may be. But the wide range of what people call RCA.
Yeah,
I call it. Their most rudimentary approaches are like playing Velcro darts.
Hey, speaking of barroom napkins, look at this comment. It's Pops. I'm ready for 2 drummers.
Charlie, it's called an HLL. It's a high-level meeting. Okay, that's the script that we have for the expense reports. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a great time with you guys, and Charlie's like my adopted father. I love hanging out with you guys.
You want to have him? Like, I'm kidding. He's like, okay, I got you, dude. Right now he's yelling at his laptop and I can't hear him.
Charlie, I don't know what you did wrong.
Had my brother. I'm kidding. We love you, Pops. I can't wait to get up with you and Bob at 2 Drummers here sometime soon, so we can get another cold beer in us and talk more about all the cool stuff going on out there. So
just one, yes.
Just one. and maybe one or two plates of food and a couple of other things. uh, so that
Luke has been written out of the will.
there you go. That comment actually means a lot to me because there's a Corvette involved.
Charlie, if you need to switch the benefactor of that to beneficiary, let me know. I'll give you
Yeah,
I'll give you my digits.
there you go. Yeah, we're gonna we actually named our boat. Got a pontoon boat at that we picked up this summer, and we're naming the boat Just One More. So it's kind of funny that you say just one, because that's kind of been the phrase in our family forever. Another beer, just one more. Yeah. So yeah,
Hours
so
later.
yeah, hours later, right? Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what your role is with the organization that you're working with for human performance.
Well, they were formerly known as HPRCT, which was Human Performance Root Cause and Trending, and they've been around a very long time. I mean, 25 years, I believe, and they started out in the nuclear industry, and for being in the human performance business for 25 years, because look how new it is today, and then you were doing it 25 years ago, and I know that because my father was doing it 50 years ago, and they started out in the nuke industry, and they through the years, as technologies have changed, as principles have changed, and industries are doing business different ways, they decided to go ahead and they did a rebrand that was more consistent with today. And it's called now the Community of Human and Organizational Learning. So it's CHOL, which is much more descriptive of actually what they're all about. Because the other was HPRCT to me was very siloed, or the appearance of being siloed, because you're separating human performance, trending, and root cause. So now we're just being able to we're holding live conferences. We're going to go back to the live conference, which it used to be only a live conference once a year. Now we're doing virtual conferences every year, as well as monthly conferences, monthly webinars from really noted speakers. I mean, tomorrow I'll be moderating for John Carroll, who from MIT, who did some surveys about people's perception of safety at the last live conference. So he's going to be bringing back and he analyzed that data that he did, and he's going to say, what are the changing perceptions of safety and the causes of safety.
Yeah, what they learned from all that fun digging in data. I think it's really cool that you're doing that. Do you know Scott Cassad? I probably shouldn't ask that live, but
I do not.
Scott and I were in the Coast Guard together, and he was part of that organization at some point in time. And I figured you guys may have crossed paths because he actually lives near Richmond.
Well, for me, because I was a good friend of mine, Bob Nelms, who actually used to work for my father 40 some years ago. He was representing the root cause side there, and has since then retired from his company. But I see a need. The reason that this enamored me was the joining of the physical and the social sciences, and I don't really know of any other place that attempts to do that. But this is really predominantly still a safety type of conference, and people from the public utility, electrical utilities, and nuclear. And we're trying to get a broader base. And my goal is to get more maintenance and reliability people, because this is an emerging technology for them. And I think that it's a good time and it's a good fit to get them more involved. And then, if you're focusing on the physics of stuff, you need to bolt this on the back end of that. And so you're not fixing stuff as much.
Very cool. I love it, man. And I love that you're back in the seat with Ken, and everything that's going on with Prelical. Can you tell me a little bit about, how you convinced Ken to hang out with you more often?
Ken, he's roughing it in New Orleans for 3 weeks right now. So I'm constantly getting messages from my new boss on Bourbon Street. So I feel like I've been there through a virtual tour.
Lots of pictures, I can assume.
Well, at least the ones that he can show, I guess. But
Yeah, there you go.
Ken is, and I did. I just wanted to, at this point in my career, I just wanted to really enjoy what I do with who I do it with. So me and Ken haven't worked together in 20 years, and Mark is doing some cameo stuff with us too. So it's just you wake up, you look forward to going to work, and having fun in the meantime.
That's awesome.
Ken does a lot of the APM work, the asset performance management work, and with the data analytics, with like that Meridium system, which is now GE APM. He was one of the original team that was developing that when they were Meridium, so he's quite familiar with how to manipulate the system to get what people want out of it. Because sometimes it could be quite an undertaking if you're not as well versed in it. So just have somebody come teach you and help you with doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did he work with Hank Kosovar at all? When I think Hank was with Meridium for a little while.
I don't know what years they were. Ken worked for Meridium, and then his wife grounded him, and then to watch the kids grow up. and then he went to the Covington paper mill down in Southwest Virginia, and he was a reliability champion there for like eight or 10 years.
Wow.
And he made some huge. I mean, they're the biggest paper mill in North America, and he made some huge reliability strides there, which he still gets accolades for.
Wow.
But then after that, he went back to GE had acquired Meridium, so he went back to GE and was working on. Was a product manager.
Awesome. That's very cool. And so now that you're getting to interact with Ken more, what kind of stuff are you going to be doing?
I'm losing IQ points. I'm interacting with them, but I'm losing IQ points, and it's really cool.
It's costing you.
Just kidding, Ken, if you're watching, but you're probably at happy hour down in New Orleans. So
no. And Ken, we wouldn't be making fun of you had you invited us, but since you didn't, well, you get what you get.
Yeah, that's another cool thing about working together like we used to, is that it was really a novelty when 2 or 3 of the brothers would be doing classes and ribbing each other like that. I'd be talking about how cheap he was on the road, and he said, "Well, you can say what you want, but who's paying all the expenses? It's not me."
Yeah. Your pocket's getting lighter and lighter as the days go on.
We had a very memorable trip. We went to Wales for 16 days way back 20 years ago. And Ken, I would make fun of Ken because I said, he brought $100. I said that was all the cash they had to go for 16 days. And I said he came back with 110. and he was saying, "Well, who's the stupid one here?" He said, "I didn't spend a dime." He said, "I made money."
That's crazy. What were you guys doing in Wales?
It was a oil refinery there that had some reliability issues, and we were doing an assessment there, which that was pretty cool because you got to see the tours of the castles, and it was a city called Pembroke. It was, I love those kind of things.
Nice. Probably a little different than the Pembroke in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Yeah, I never made it to Wales. I spent 8 weeks in Colchester, England. That was about probably the closest I'll ever come to that trip.
We went to a golf course in Wales, and I'm not an avid golfer or anything, but the terrain is very hilly. So I mean, you would be teeing off over a green that was beneath you, and Ken hit a ball out, and it went out of bounds, and it went past a big wooden sign, huge letters. It says it was a German firing range that they had rented. And it says, do not pick up anything. It may explode and kill you. That was the exact words. Let's say, Ken, I think we'll let this one go. We'll let this one go.
Yeah, just play it in.
He got a picture. I got a picture of him standing in front of the sign.
That's hilarious. That's good. Now, was Mark with you guys on that trip, or was it just you and Ken?
Well, there was like five of us. No, because Mark wasn't working with us at that time.
Hmm.
Hey, Mark was probably at Philip Morris at that time, the cigarette
Yeah,
folk.
he was doing something serious with his time while you guys were playing around.
Work. It's like he's in Nolans. He's working.
Yeah, for those that aren't familiar, Bob and I are both from the central to southeastern Virginia area, and Philip Morris is what they've got to be the largest manufacturer in the area there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
huge. And so there's a lot of folks that work in this space end up either at Philip Morris or around Philip Morris in some way, shape, or form over the years. But you guys actually got your dad was it's a the local, or it's the current Honeywell, right? Is that still a Honeywell over in Hopewell?
Well, the chemical division of Honeywell has been purchased within the last 3 to 5 years. And now they're called Advan 6. And I think that they bought the two or three plants over here, and I think there were two more in the chemical division.
Wow.
But they were originally Allied Chemical Corporation back in '72, and then I think in '85 is when they were actually. Little known fact: Allied Chemical actually bought Honeywell and took the Honeywell name because there used to be a big sign outside of Hopewell that said "Chemical Capital of the South" until it wasn't cool anymore. I don't know how long you've been here since the days of Keepone. There was a national news is that there was chemicals being dumped into the local river here, and we had Senate hearings in our local high school, and there was a fishing ban for like 16 years.
Wow.
And the chemical was called Keepone, Kepone. But that was part of the when you do something like that and it hits the national news. If I bought Honeywell, I'd take their name too.
Yeah, get rid of the Allied.
So,
Wow, that's crazy.
That's all PR and marketing, but there's still that plant in Hopewell here, to the best of my knowledge, was the birthplace of reliability in the U.S.
Wow.
And they still have that program going there.
And it all started with a guy named Latino. You got to love it.
Yep. That crazy Sicilian.
That's right. And then he had a bunch of crazy kids,
Well, that's another thing, because when you travel with a name like Latino, everybody you go to South America and they're talking Spanish with you, and you're saying, "Well, where's my interpreter?" I'm Sicilian, but I don't speak that either, so I'm a disappointment to two different nationalities.
There you go. You told me a story about your dad one time that I thought was great. It was about the fire escape at your house. Would you be willing to share that?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a very blue collar city, 25,000 people, and it's a typical plant town. And my father, this was his big house that he always wanted to build, and he wanted all the bells and whistles on it. And he was big safety nut, big human reliability nut, and he wanted to put a fire escape on his new house. And it wasn't like throwing the rope ladder out the window. It was like you were in New York, and it's this big steel monstrosity that the steps come down.
I love it.
We went to the local building code people, and they were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He was asking for the code for it. And they're saying, "I can't even picture what you're talking about."
You're like, they're like, it's a house, right?
And they ended up having to come up with something for it, but he actually put that up. It's to this day, it's still there.
That's awesome. I love that story because that shows just how much he lived that. It's not just a work thing. That is really how your dad viewed life. And you've actually commented to me several times that reliability for you guys was like a way of life. It wasn't just, a work discipline. I think that's super cool.
So sometimes I think it's a curse, and well, in the sense that I've literally been brought up in reliability from my house,
Mhm.
when I grew up. I always taught foresight, always taught proactivity, and looking out into the future. And I've always practiced that.
Mhm.
But when you get into the real world and you're different than other people, the same expectation, you would think that and you sit there and you talk to yourself and you say, why don't other people see this?
Mhm.
Why is this so unusual? Why do people stop at a broken part? Why do people blame these people? And I know that I feel like I'm in a little shell because I can't. It's not normal. I'm finding out. I knew I'm abnormal, but it was for different reasons. But
You're like, oh wait, that's the reason I don't feel like everyone else.
is that why kids wouldn't play with me in school?
They're like, no, that's not it, Bob.
Well, I told Charlie Matthews this story about growing up with my dad because he was a pioneer in this area, and he always was 10 steps ahead of you, and that was a curse for me in high school because I would get caught doing everything because he he could always see what I was going to be doing, and then he made sure he let the rope loose enough that I didn't get killed or end up in jail or in the hospital. But and I was like, damn, how does he know what I'm doing? And I inherited that. My daughter is saying that right now
Yes. Yes.
because
I'm sure
I
she
have
is.
that same intuition now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. And I just think that's such a gift that you have, the ability to share those stories with us because, not a lot of people have the kind of relevance in their upbringing to be able to share that with people in their work. And I think it's really cool that you and your dad have that. I had that with my dad in the Coast Guard. My brother has that with my dad in the Coast Guard. I'd meet people when I was on ships and stuff. They'd say, "You're Charlie's kid?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And they'd say, "Man, what was that like growing up?" And they'd all laugh, and your dad's a hard ass, man. He's awesome, but that guy's pretty intense. And I'd say, "Yeah, he is."
Well,
Confirmed.
we all went through parochial school, and it was five of us, and the nuns couldn't wait for the last. They see another Latino coming through. They go, "Oh my God, how many did they have?"
That's awesome. You're calling your mom. Hey, look, this is the last one, right?
Well, I think the routine with that is that we were more scared of the nuns than we were our parents because
Yeah.
they had the full right to take it to you.
Yeah, I never went to a parochial school. I never went to a Catholic school. My dad went to Catholic school in Brooklyn when he was younger. Obviously, when elementary school age, and some of the stories he's told me are hilarious. Picked up by his ears and all the good stuff. And he,
Charlie, you weren't a teacher's pet.
I'll let him tell you some stories about why he wasn't. I'll have to have him on here one day. We're just gonna do Catholic school stories with Charlie Marino. That'd be great. So, so like, what? So, what kind of work do you see yourself doing with Prelical now that you guys are? Is it Prelical or Prelical? I want to make sure I don't butcher it more than once or twice.
This is a very frequent conversation me and Ken have, and he had to put a video out to explain how the name came to be. It's properly pronounced Prelical.
Prelical, because it's practical reliability, right?
Yes, but
Sure.
I still don't see how two half words fit in there. So it's like thirds that you push it around. I'm sure there were some ounces involved with that creative session.
I think it's cool. It's definitely different, and it's a good opportunity to give Ken a ribbing. But I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have thought of that. So it's one of those things
Well,
where I go, awesome.
and sometimes when you do things like that, that makes it more memorable when it's that unique. So
Yeah.
I like it. it's we're just getting the word out. But I'm still doing primarily. I'm going to start doing some APM work uh, with some friends that we have in those industries, and I'm still licensed as an authorized provider through RCI to deliver those offerings. So I'm always going to be near and dear to my RCA space, and
Yeah.
the easy RCA tool that they have created is really phenomenal. I don't know of an easier product to use to get in, and it's agnostic. I use it all the time.
Yeah,
So
I think it's fantastic. I mean, the first time you showed it to me, I was wildly impressed by how simplified it was and effective, because I think that's like a show of a very good product is that the interface is so intuitive that you don't have to have this vast experience with different types of technical software to be able to operate the system. I work with some model-based systems engineering software on a routine basis that just getting it loaded to your computer is a massive effort. Um, I think the Easy RCA tool is just one of those hidden gems right now, and I'm glad that you're able to still work with RCI in the capacity of both delivering training and supporting those products. That's pretty awesome.
well, I've always had a bigger vision of what RCA is. I think the name is what takes away from RCA, the root cause analysis, because it's a horrible name. It's ineffective. It's diluted. Nobody understands what the hell it is. Whatever they do is always different. But I write about this and I practice it. But RCA is not a task. It's a system, and it is a way of life. Because what you're trying when as baby boomers exit, think of how much talent is going right out the door, which is in their head and it's not being captured.
Yep.
And RCA, if you're using logic diagrams like we do with the logic tree, if you're capturing your best problem solvers like that, you're building a reservoir of that talent. You're institutionalizing the knowledge before they leave. And now with all of these new technologies like AI and IoT and all these other things coming out, you're able to parse millions of pieces of data and be able to find the correlations and the connections between that, in your facilities around the world. And that's why we're at least I'm interested in integrating RCA offerings like that, like the Easy RCA, into the APM systems, because APM systems are not intuitive enough yet, or I don't know what direction that they'll head, but they don't have that social science component to it.
No.
Typically at RCM, we're dealing at mode level and we're dealing at mechanics level, mechanical levels, and we're not getting down into systems stuff. So, I can trigger from an APM system doing analytics. It can spit out a candidate for RCA and envision an RCA button on there going, pulling all the data and the histories associated with that particular event, going and pre-populating an RCA so that you've expedited the setup of that to whatever degree that you've had in there. And
Wow.
that you can go ahead and bolt on and add on the social science side and look at the human characteristics of that, and then push out the corrective actions into some type of ERM system or a work order type system, and then complete the circle, because after that you can update the work strategies from the APM side. So
Yeah,
I see it as a much bigger thing than just solving a problem there, because the creating that knowledge base is the key to me, and it always has been.
so do you find any? Do you get it? Do you see a lot? And maybe you see it in a different degree now than you did when you first started with the industry. But do you find that people are more accepting of that human element of RCA now than they used to be? I mean, I think the community kind of, especially the engineering side, gets a rap for just completely disregarding that as a key influence in an event. But I think the smart ones have always known that it's not necessarily human uh, it's not human action alone that is part of the root cause. It's what triggered or influenced the human action that really needs to be addressed, right? Because that cause effect could continue in other people or even with that person again. Do you see more acceptance of that now than you used to?
Well, I think that that's a leadership issue because in most of what you're describing, we tend to do whatever the regulatory driver makes us do, and there's not a regulatory driver to take it that deep.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, I everybody can grasp onto shiny things that I can buy new pieces of equipment and that type of thing. But when you start getting down into that soft stuff of the touchy feely people and systems, then all of a sudden it gets murky, and a lot of people don't want to play the politics of that. But I'm of the mind, if you know, if you can't continually update your systems to provide information that's accurate to people, then it's a vicious cycle. You know, and I talk about the you know, when you introduce new technologies and then you don't upgrade the procedures for that. So you got people out there following an obsolete procedure, and we're blaming them. And so, you know, I followed what was in the queue for me. And you know, systems aren't made for one person to draw off of. So you can discipline them all you want, but the root is still there, and other people are tapping on that system. So you'll just have it somewhere else. And then another issue with when I was talking about the reach of RCA is that, you know, when you've got plants all around the world, and you know you have like service and like equipment and like service. Well, you know, you solve it in one plant, and then you have 5 other plants that have the same problem, and they're over there. It's RCA rework. They're continuing to solve the same thing you did over and over again without the ability to share and collaborate globally. It'd be nice to be able to go in that big knowledge base that we did, look up the OEM on that, and look at the service that it's in, and say, I want to see all RCAs that were done on this. And it's likely not to ever be a match one for one because the variables will always be different. But I can take the core branches of a tree and be able to say, you know, where it was fatigue last time, maybe in my case, it's going to be overload. So, you know, you know how it's structured because there's a bunch of things in there in these analyses that prove not to be true, but they're still there for the next person to be able to check. It becomes a troubleshooting flow diagram.
I've said it every time I've ever talked about EZRCA, but when you first showed me the EZRCA tool, one of the things that jumped out to me was if you're doing FAMICA or FAMIA and you're looking for potential causes of failures, that database that you have linked for causes is just fantastic. I mean, you could literally open that thing up and go, you know, bearing failure, and it's got a very comprehensive list of bearing failure causes, and you could have a person that's smart enough about that piece of equipment go through that list and determine whether those are feasible failures or not for that, or likely failures or not for that type of bearing. You know, that's just one example. I thought that was fantastic. I don't know, you know, and it gets kind of a lot to the point of, you know, when you're looking beyond the face value of something, you know, and you can go deeper. Some of those tools really help. I mean, in the world of, this is one of the things that I think's plagued the softer side of the root cause analysis. Is like when we look at the physical side of it, we've got manuals and things to reference for potential bearing failure causes and you know, different material failures and that type of stuff. But when it comes to the person that's in the equation, it's much harder for us to find something to reference, put our hands on something concrete or discrete to reference that would lead us to determine those failure modes for the person.
Right.
How do you deal with that?
And those libraries that we do have in there, or that RCI has in there, are let me see if I can remember them all. But there's mechanical, there's electrical, there's operational, there's human, there's quality and safety, I think. So, I mean, it's not just the mechanical stuff. It does get into you know, processes and procedures and admin stuff and all that kind of as well. Because that's not stuff that people are typically familiar with. That's the foreign part. So they do need an assist with doing that.
I love it.
Am I allowed to give a website for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
EasyRCA.com. It's pretty easy.
And I'm going to put it in the chat for those that are able to see it. I don't think it'll go to LinkedIn because LinkedIn has a thing with bouncing back and forth messages. But for those that can see the chat stream, if you can see it, I just entered easyrca.com, and that's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube can surely see it. And I'll go back and enter that into the comments for the video on LinkedIn as well, just to make sure that everyone's got access to that. But yeah, it's a fantastic tool.
Yeah, I just want to say ditto. Everything you said, whatever you said.
Yeah, that stuff.
That stuff.
Yeah, so for those that aren't familiar, this streams across multiple platforms, and I'm still trying to get the interactivity with some of these platforms nailed down. But hey, so Bob, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that you and I are going to be presenting together in October at the SMRP annual conference. We're going to do a workshop together. It's going to be awesome. And I don't care what anyone else says. It's going to be fantastic. I think we are going to do something they probably have never seen before. We're bringing some topics together that have probably never been conjoined in the same way. And I think it's going to be pretty cool. You want to talk a little bit about your part of that and why it's going to be so valuable?
Well, I for my part, I my depth of knowledge, I got a narrow highway that's really deep, and that's about the extent of my map out in the desert. But if you look at systems engineering and you say that very simple 3 blocks that are next to each other, it's inputs, a transformation, and an output. Okay, just take those, and for me the RCA is the transformation. You're taking the inputs of qualified candidates for RCA and all the evidence collected, and then you're going to make sense of it and determine causation. And then you're going to push out, the output is going to be what are the corrective actions to fix that. And then it's a feedback loop with that. So, I'm going to be going through that grinding portion of that, the transformation side, and then talking about the, on your side of that, helping me determine and quantify what are the candidates for this. From my standpoint, these organizations typically have the triggers for RCA, but they're typically very high. It's really too late because somebody's dead, or we've got a reportable, or we lost $1 million, or guys with jackets up or their suits are from the regulatory agency, and it's too late, right? So why we tend to use RCA only reactively. And there's no reason that we can't look at RCAs proactively. And there's not many people that do it, because all it is a thinking process. It's a critical thinking process. So when you go through and you say, I have no reason you can't do an RCA as a result of your FMEAs that you've done, any risk assessment tool, which on your case, Laura would be one of those, right?
Well, yeah, that, and they're all related, but yes,
yeah, and being able to take a Pareto cut of any risk assessment tool that you're using, that you're comfortable with the data in it is accurate, and then take that 20% of the failure modes that represent 80% of the risk, and do an RCA on those. There's absolutely no reason you can't do an RCA where the top event is an unacceptable risk of blank.
Right. Yeah, I love it because, one of the things I teach in the maintenance task analysis course is how I need a really well-defined FMECA or FMEA to have been completed so that I know what maintenance to analyze, right? And then we expend the energy to analyze the maintenance that's worthy of analysis. You're not going to analyze gauge calibration. That's like a copy and paste on most systems across your platform. But, the ones that have sufficient levels of criticality, the ones that have sufficient levels of investment, they are justify the activity of a maintenance task analysis, a root cause analysis, a level of repair analysis. And for the organizations that don't do those things normally, how do you prove to or make a good business case to take those activities and make them reality for those organizations, so you can do just like you were saying, not only identify the potential failures, but reduce the actual risk of incidents by doing something about them, further analyzing the need for either maintenance or different resources or whatever to help drive down the risk and improve the availability of the assets down the road. Because in the military, it's kind of funny. We have a different focus on, like, we don't produce a profit, right?
Right.
Our profit, if you will, is the highest amount of platform availability possible. And when it's available, it's available. Like, I don't want to be
Right.
worried about, having partial availability if I can help it. So, the aircraft carrier that's underway but can't fly planes is
Right.
far
Yeah.
less effective than the aircraft carrier that can. you know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah. So, the justification behind the investment in all the resources that make that support that asset properly. That's kind of a big follow on to that. And I couldn't be more excited to be doing that with you. It's going to be fun. I only wish
Oh,
we
yeah,
could bring Mike and Tom in and have them play with us, but they're probably going to be doing something else.
well, and like I said, because mine is so broad based and you can apply it anywhere, is that we all know Sonia Mathura from Strategic Reliability, and I collaborated with her. I'm no lubrication reliability expert, but I collaborated with her where I facilitated RCAs on the top 6 lubrication degradation mechanisms with her as the field expert, and we made a book out of that. So
It's pretty cool.
I know a lot more about lubrication now than I did before, but I was not the subject matter expert in that. Just I'm trying to show the versatility and the skill of facilitating that
Yes.
thinking process as opposed to the content in it.
Yeah. That's the big thing. I think that's going to be a big takeaway from that event at SMRP, is that we'll show that it's not about the analysis, it's about what the analysis can do for your organization, right? Like, the analysis is the nerd part of it, but it's one, it's not as intimidating as it sounds or looks. 2, it's way more effective and beneficial than it sounds and looks. And 3, you can do it. Like, anyone can do it. It doesn't take a master's degree or a doctorate or any of that stuff to do this stuff. It's fairly simple, and it's very powerful, and you just have to have the right way of thinking. And speaking of power and thinking and all that stuff, we've got a comment from some guy named Charlie Marino. It says, Bob, in your years of doing RCA, do you find an increase in the failures related to a reduction in deck plate experience? So I guess as that talent is leaving, as the experience levels are dropping in the workforce, do you find an increase in failures?
I don't have enough. There's not a national database out there of things like that. So that's just a feel. But I do see the exodus of all that talent, and I do see that the voids that are left behind are people who don't know how to problem solve, as well as the people that left. And that's from a proactive standpoint. That's poor planning on the organization, because everybody knew 10 years, 15, 20 years ago that this exodus was going to happen. There's a shortage of skilled labor across the board now. All of this was predictable, and we didn't prepare for it. Why weren't we trying to institutionalize that knowledge? And I'm not saying that some people aren't doing it, because there is a minority of the population that did do a good job of that. But for the bulk of the people, is that we just let that get away, and I think it has affected reliability across the board, because how do you have a reliable organization when you don't have a reliable staff?
Yeah.
How do you spend all that money to train people and then they go across the street to somebody else? Because you should be doing RCAs, and why you have high turnover? Why are people so readily going to somebody else and that you're not the chosen provider for them.
Yeah, I've actually commented on a very similar conversation earlier this week, where when I was the workforce manager for the naval engineer community in the Coast Guard, I went to um, this event where the commandant was speaking. The commandant, for those that aren't familiar, is the senior officer of the service. He was speaking about retention issues, how the retirement plan changes were impacting retention and recruiting, what we thought the impacts to workforce development were going to be. And he said something that resounded with me. And this is Admiral Zunkoff. Um, he said that we had to be the employer of choice. And I thought, wow, what a challenge. Like, basically he was saying, we know we can't beat the civilian sector on salary, so why would they choose to come to us? Focus on the reasons they would come and choose to work with us and not someone else, and exploit those strengths, because if we can magnify those opportunities for people, they'll be inclined to come with us and stay with us. And I thought about it. He's not wrong. There's certain things you can't do anywhere else, that you're going to have people that come to the service just for that.
Yep.
But at a certain point, there's times in everyone's career where they're not getting to do those things, and they start to lose sight of that. And so you have to make sure you stay the employer of choice. I always feel like the mighty dollar and the investment and overhead and all that stuff gets in the way of that succession planning. The majority that doesn't do that well, I think a lot of it's just because they're afraid to invest the finances in having two people at the same time, or spreading people in a different area than they initially hired them for, so they could gain other knowledge. There's less sharing going on because of that, and you end up with just sequence of hire, fire, lose, hire, lose, hire, lose, and then eventually there's a gap. And that's that gap you're talking about.
And it's just like this, what your platform here is called. It's life cycle. So, I mean, if you're, what's the life cycle cost of the high turnover? And,
Yeah.
that's like buying based on cost and not value. Is that, the value is that you want to keep them there, and that they enjoy work and they want to make a career out of this. Because I just don't know how do you get the consistency of operations when you don't have consistency of staff.
Yep. I don't know that there's too many people measuring the impact of that on productivity, or the impact of that. And this might be to your point earlier. No one's measuring the impact of that effect, right? What it's doing to the productivity of the organization, what it's doing for outputs of the different programs and processes in place, positive or negative. I mean, some places get better when they lean out a little bit, but others do not. Like, I've been in a situation where we were just waiting for someone to retire, because they needed to go and they weren't really bringing the value to the table. But for the people that are bringing that value, the minute they're gone, we lose a value to the organization. I don't know how many people are measuring that.
I think that HR departments ought to be doing RCA based on the exit interviews that they have, and seeing why people are leaving.
Yeah,
absolutely no reason. And that would not be a difficult analysis either.
No. Yeah, I mean, think about how many people already have that data, because they're already performing an exit interview, but they're not doing anything with the data once the interview's over. They just check the box. Oh, exit interview's complete. Next.
It's a checklist function. They say, we did the interview.
Yep.
That's even like us when, in most training organizations, when you have the evaluation, the critique form. Yep. If your success is that, overall we got a rating of blank, 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 blank. Well, that don't mean squat. For us, the measure was always if somebody's willing to let me use a testimonial because of success they had implementing it, then that's way better to me than saying that I had a class that gave me good ratings. Who cares? They got away, whatever city they were in, they got free meals. They probably, went out to bars at night. They had a great time. But that doesn't make them profitable or making you money How many organizations do you know that have an ROI for their training dollars? They have them for capital projects, but where's the ROI, the corporate ROI for training dollars?
Yeah, this is, I think, why the Coast Guard always stuck their training centers in the middle of nowhere.
I'm sure you found a place to have fun in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we did.
Nowhere, go somewhere to have fun.
That's right. So we've got about 4.5 minutes left, and I know you've got something you want to share with this, so I want to make sure I give you enough time to do that. What's new? What's going on? What do you got going on there that you want to share?
No, I was just obviously, well, not obviously, but I mean, I've accepted a position to be with Upkeep in the sense of an ambassador. I'll be added to their ambassador council, which is an advisory board, along with some good friends that you and I know. Mm-hmm. And I'm very appreciative and honored to take that. Hold on. This is a bigger deal.
Don't close your eyes.
Yeah. It's not what you fear it to be. So this will be my Upkeep reveal. I've got all my swag now to do it. But one of my charters and one of my personal endeavors in doing that is to highlight, create awareness in this human performance area to this community, make them to mature them through it, so that when it does become more prevalent and that their sophistication level gets up to it, that they start questioning at their own sites to say we stop short. That's how I'll know when we're making a dent, is when people start rejecting RCAs because you stop too early, and people they question that, and that's a thing that I try to beat into the leaderships and the trainings, is to say, because they're not typically trained in how to assess the quality of an RCA. They focus on the corrective actions and things of that. But I try to encourage them to say, to look at, was evidence used to support anything that they said? Did they get to decision makers? Did they get past decision makers? Because it's very hard for leadership to look at deficiencies in management systems and not take it personally. If you haven't been educated properly, you can easily look at that and say you're blaming me. Right. And that's totally what's not happening. That's not the intent. Is that the only way you're going to make progress is if you understand and they validate that these deficiencies exist in management systems. We look in the mirror, we own it, we say, yes, we were a contributor to this particular incident, and we're going to take care of it. Instead of shielding yourself and saying, that's not it, that's not possible, that's not me, that type of thing. So when you get them to start being open, and everybody's using psychologically safe, and that, part of being psychologically looking in that proverbial mirror and saying, yes, we contributed to this, and you do it in a public way so that everybody feels more comfortable next time to say, well, I've got this problem over here with this system that's obsolete too. So that's, you want people to start bringing this out and not think that it's career limiting because they're being honest.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I love the concept of the ambassador program that, they've established, and Upkeep's fantastic. And Rob K and I, we teamed up last Wednesday for an episode, and we were both wearing Upkeep t-shirts, and it was a complete accident. And it was, it reminded me of those memes where it's like, oh, this is awkward. Like two people showing up at a formal event in the same clothes or whatever. And so when we joined today, it's just by sheer happenstance that I'm not wearing an Upkeep shirt.
Well, I can make a prediction, and it's an testament to effective marketing that when we go to SMRP, you're going to see a lot of Upkeep backpacks rolling around SMRP.
Yeah, and I might have to wear a pair of Upkeep short or socks every day just to show Ryan that I have a deep appreciation for his generosity with the socks.
I have no problem carrying the brand around because I think that they're just that good as an organization. I
Yeah.
think they're some of the most genuine and positive people I've ever met in my life, and I'm
Yeah.
honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to see you with them in some capacity, because like you said, they're just fantastic people, and you're
Yeah.
fantastic people, and I love to see fantastic people working together. So yeah. So Bob, you got anything else you want to pass to the group or anything? We're at the hour mark. I usually try and wrap right about now, but I'm not up against a hard stop. I just want to make sure that you've had an opportunity to pass anything. Where can people get in touch with you and follow what you're doing these days?
Um, Latino at prelical.com. That is PRELICAL.com. And, and again, I'm doing the same type of services that I was before. I'm just doing it in partnership with our RCI now. So we work collaboratively for the benefit of the customer. You have the easy RCA up there. And if you just went to prelical.com, you'll see the website of two people that have very limited marketing technology experience, but we do the best that we can.
I think the site looks great, man. I was just on the site the other day, and I thought it looked fantastic. I was like, wow, it's nice and clean, and it's well organized. It doesn't look like two reliability guys put it together. So I give you props. You sure you didn't
I got
outsource?
to give props to Ken for that, because that is 90% Ken, and pretty much me and Mark put our pictures on there, so that didn't help the site. That probably dropped it a grade.
Yeah, if you'd hired someone, they'd have removed that element. They would be like, yeah, I put the pictures on there. It's on a back page. It's on the bottom. It's you got to open this thing. Um, yeah, and I'm just blessed to have you guys in my network and to interact with you, and to have you guys as part of the East family. We just absolutely love having you with us, and same with RCI. I mean, just great to have such good people to lean on and interact with, and so thanks for staying in touch with us and being a part of the team. And I'm just stoked for everything that's going on in your life right now, and it's just great because I'm looking down the road. It's like that's a good place to be, man. It's a good place to be.
Thank you for forums like this, and especially with you and Charlie, because I enjoy more than things like Two Drummers, where I can just, I'm so comfortable around you guys that I do feel like you're brothers from another mother. So
that's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we're going to have you back sooner rather than later, Bob. So thanks for coming on today. And for those that are interested in catching you in the future, stay tuned, because we will get Bob back eventually. And it will definitely be before October when we're at SMRP together. But if it's not, we're going to go live from SMRP in some way, shape, or form, even if I have to do it from the hotel bar with a beer. All right.
That's a good possibility.
Yeah, we might do both. And for those that are interested in what's coming up next week, we've got our very own Sonia Mathura joining us next Wednesday, 4 o'clock. I think it's 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Sonia's going to come on here and make us all look silly with her awesomeness. So stay tuned for next week's Wednesday episode of Life Cycles Live stream. And Bob, thanks again so much for joining us. And I wish you a fantastic week, my friend. Thanks for joining me.
Same here. Thank you for the discussion and the friendship. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Have a good one. Thanks.